guys. Today I'm going to teach you a preliminary skill that you will need in order to start factoring trinomials soon. Okay, so this is going to seem kind of unrelated to anything, but it's going to be helpful tomorrow when we officially start. So think of today as kind of a puzzle. We are trying to find numbers that fit the multiply add table shown. Okay, so here's what this means. All you're doing is trying to find two numbers. Try to find two numbers that multiply to 12 but add to 8. So the M stands for multiply and the A stands for add. Okay, so what are two numbers that multiply to 12, add to 8? Give that a try. Now, if you can do it on your own, great. If you need some help, here's kind of the steps you take. Start with the multiply number and write down a list of all the ways you can multiply to 12. It could be 1 and 12. It could be 3 and 4. It could be 6 times 2. I think that's it, right? Okay. Once you have your multiply list, find out which set of these numbers adds to 8. And if you scroll down the list, you will see that it's 6 and 2, right? Aren't those the only pair that adds to 8? So your answer, you would just write 6 and 2. I apologize for my voice today. All right, number 2. Find two numbers that multiply to 20 but add to 9. Again, some of you can do this in your head real quick. If not, let's make a list. All the ways you can multiply to 20. It could be 1 times 20, 2 times 10. It could be 4 times 5. I think that's it. Now, out of this list, which set of numbers adds to 9? And it would obviously be this one. So your answer would be 4 and 5. All right, let's try one more. Find two numbers that multiply to 15 but add to 16. Okay, again, I'm going to make a list. To multiply to 15 could be 1 times 15. It could be 5 times 3. I think that's it. Now, which of those numbers adds to 16? Well, it would be these guys. So your answer would be 1 and 15. Okay, so super easy. So just a heads up, when both of these numbers are positive, you know for sure that both of your numbers will be positive. Okay, let's write that down. When the multiply and the add are both positive, then your numbers will also be positive. Okay, that won't be the case later down the list here. Okay, now number 4 through 6, now this is a different type. What happens when the multiply is positive but the adds are negative? Okay, this is a little bit harder. When the multiply is positive and the adds are negative, let's write this down. When the multiply is positive but the add is negative, then both of your numbers will be negative. And let's see why. Okay, so let's make a list. We need two numbers that multiply to 16 but add to negative 10. Okay, so let's make a list of all the numbers that multiply to 16. It could be 1 and 16. It could be 8 and 2. It could be 4 times 4. I think that's it. But then they have to add to negative 10. So the only way to multiply to a positive is either if they're both positive or if they're both negative. Okay, now, which one of these pairs adds to negative 10? It's going to be these guys right here. So it's negative 8 and negative 2. All right, let's try 5. Two numbers that multiply to 12 but add to negative 7. Again, do it in your head if you guys can. I'm just making a list for people that need it. So 12 could be 3 and 4, 12 and 1, or 6 and 2. But if they're multiplying to a positive but adding to a negative, they're both going to have to be negative. Okay, which pair of numbers adds to -7? It looks like this one right here. So your answer is -3 and -4. Okay, one more, number 6. Two numbers that multiply to 7 but add to -8. Now I'm going to do this one in my head. If they multiply to 7, it's got to be 1 and 7. But if they're adding to -8, it's got to be -1 and -7. Okay, that works out. Okay, the last set, and these are the hardest ones. When your multiply is negative, it means there's got to be one positive and one negative. Okay, so when the multiply is negative, there will be one positive and one negative in your answer. Okay, here we go. Now, make a list of all the ways that you can multiply to -24. So it could be 24 and 1, 6 and 4, 8 and 3, 12 and 2. I think that's it. Okay. Now, if you want to multiply to -24, then one of the numbers has to be negative. So this one you got to think. Which number can you make one of them negative and they'll still add to -2? So you kind of got to play around a little bit here. I'm thinking it's probably going to be the 6 and the 4, but which one should be negative if you want to add to a -2? And remember, if the answer is negative, then the bigger number should be negative. Okay, so this one's actually -6 and 4. A little bit harder, these. Okay, number 8. Two numbers that multiply to -30 but add to 7. Okay, so all the ways to make 30, it could be 30 and 1, it could be 10 and 3, it could be 15 and 2, it could be 6 times 5. But if it's going to multiply to -30, then one of them has to be negative. But you want to put it in the right spot so that they still add to +7. So I'm thinking it's going to be these, 10 and 3. But where should the negative go if you want to be +7? And it would go with the smaller number, because if the answer is bigger, or I'm sorry, if the answer is positive, then the bigger number should be positive. So this one's 10 and -3. Okay, guys, last one. -10 and adds to -3. So feel free to pause this one. I'm going to do it in my head. Okay, so I'm going to say to multiply to 10, it could be -5 and 2. And I know the negative goes with the 5 because I want it to add to -3. So if you can do it in your head, go for it. All right, guys, I know this seems weird, but this will help us with factoring tomorrow. Nice job.